Hi, I'm Kat.
And I'm Gabe. And we're the Ghouls Next Door. And this is another special episode because we have a super special guest. This time it's Jeff.
Hello.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi.
Hey, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
How you
It's a
doing?
pleasure.
Thank you for being in our house with us.
He left his house to come to our house to be social.
Most of the
Oh,
time.
good
This
for
time
you.
that was just straight from work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Jeff and
So I
I work
lied. You
together.
left work.
Jeff and I work together, and we have bonded many a times over horror movies and video games. So we thought, why not talk about two of those things together? So we're going to talk about horror video games.
Woo.
So spooky stuff. So there are lots of horror video games. We've
Yes.
played many. But we specifically convinced somehow Jeff to come over and spend time with us to play a specific video game Until Dawn, which is for the PS4. So we watched him make some possibly terrible decisions.
He still doesn't know.
He doesn't know all the decisions that he's made and what the consequences are because you're catching him mid-game.
Yeah, we can't even do spoilers.
Yeah.
No.
Can't.
You just can't.
It's okay.
And,
We'll talk about it in the present of where you are in the game.
Not in my
Ruin
throat.
your life.
Yeah, and we'll just let Jeff rant because he feels a certain type of way about it. But let's start out with, as we usually do, some personal gaming stories because we're all gamers in a way or another. So, Kat, you want to tell us about video games of the horror?
Yeah.
persuasion?
So, I mean, video games in general. I started playing them because I was like, my dad likes those. I'm cool too. Look at me be cool. And then my stepdad also played them. So it was just like all the like cool people in my life were like, yo, I play video games. If you want to hang out with me, you'll do that too. Or watch me do that. I was like, cool, I'll do that. That's fine.
Video games are cool, yeah.
Yeah. So then it was also eventually became like a fun thing that I also played because I was like, I want to be cool too. Look at me.
Well, what's like the horror video game that you remember from growing up?
Well, we always played Resident Evil. I, like, mentioned that the other one that he, like, loved to play it at weird hours of the night. I guess because, like, that's when kids are usually asleep, so, like, that's when it's appropriate to play Resident Evil, but the joke was on him because we would always stay awake to watch him play Resident Evil. And it would always start at, like, 10 o'clock. He gets his ass cream, which is ice cream.
Yeah.
He said ass.
That's gross.
And then we all, like, set up on the couch. And he would play, like, through the Resident Evil games. And he took it, like, super seriously. Like, he took notes. This was before you could just, like, look up all the cheats on the internet, watch a YouTube video, and, like, be like, oh, I know how to play the game now. So he actually had to solve all the little codes and stuff that were in the game. And it was fun because, like, me and my stepbrother were, like, trying to help him. But we were, like, 7, so we were not good at it. It's not like our logic was better than his logic as a grown adult. So we were, like, sitting there, and we'd usually be, like, terrified. So, like, we'd be like, oh, no, like, hiding behind each other or, like, a pillow as, like, these zombies would attack him. And I think sometimes he would give us the controller, like, as a funny thing. And we'd be like, no!
Yeah.
Like, throw it away. And then, like, he would have to just continue to play. But I never, like, to this day, I still have a really hard time playing those kinds of games by myself. It, like, freaks me out.
Yeah, horror video games should definitely be played with other people. I feel very strongly about that.
Yeah, because if you're by yourself, you're like, is this actually real?
It's like
I don't
watching
know.
a horror movie by yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta be in a certain mind frame, and you just gotta... You gotta be a certain type of lonely to put yourself through that kind of torture. I remember one time I was watching The Hills of Eyes by myself.
By yourself?
By myself, in my room.
No.
It was pitch black. I had, like, this big, like, queen bed. I'm, like, in the center of it. And we had, like... I don't know, but it just was super loud. I remember I was, like, sitting up, and there's, like, a part where the guy's in the bathroom, or, like, the outhouse, and there's the guys around him, and you hear, like, Daddy, Daddy, and it sounded like it was literally right next to me, and I was like, that's enough for that movie today. Gonna go watch some cartoons. And that's how I feel about horror video games. You need to play with other people.
I mean,
People
like-
need to be there to experience this shit, you know?
Yeah, that's why I don't watch intense shows by myself. Everyone thinks I'm crazy. It's like, you need someone there so that when you're freaking out, you know you're not crazy because they're freaking out too.
Yeah.
And then also, yeah, I don't know. And it's like, I think with horror video games, it's it could convince you to want to hang out with people because you're scared. And you're like, usually when you're scared, you're not like, I want to be by myself. That sounds great. So the murderer can find me easier.
Yeah.
Like, or I like won't have enough people to defend myself. Or like, so for Jeff, my introverted friend, just watch a lot of scary movies by yourself, and you'll be like, oh my god, people, where are they? I need to establish a group to protect me from the scary. And that's the cure for, introverting. Solve the world problem.
To
There's
watch
a lot of
horror.
spiking
Yeah,
with
just watch
Jeffrey.
scary shit by yourself.
Yeah.
You'll be like, no, I like people now. Depending on what kind of scary you're watching. If you're watching, like, realistic horror, then it's probably, I don't trust anybody. I'm gonna go live in the woods because there's murderers everywhere.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, like, psychological, like, scary stuff, or, like, ghosts and shit, you'd be like, nah, I need to find the people so we can fight back.
Okay.
But yeah, I liked horror video games. Still do. I play many of them. I've played them with you.
Yes.
And we played Until Dawn, and you still don't even know.
You don't even
You still
know.
don't even know.
Should have
I
seen.
know.
Your life is a lie.
Should have seen Gabe going in on me about how much I didn't.
Yeah, I was like, you don't even have a right to your opinion.
Yeah,
You
she's
don't
just
know
like
all
I
the stories.
I don't even have the steam for this rant that she mentioned earlier because she took all the wind out of my sails.
That's okay, I'll
Oh,
pump it back up.
Oh,
Telling
no.
me that I didn't have the right to my own opinions.
Well,
Okay. You have the
Gabe's
right
mean
now.
to Jeff. This is why he doesn't come over.
But it's totally fine, and
But since you're talking, why don't you talk about horror video game experience? Like, what the first one or the most memorable one that you're just like, wow.
Ooh. So the first one was indirect, and this is when I really was not about horror. Was this game was on the first PlayStation, and I believe it was called
PS1?
Nightmare. It was something to that effect, and I from very very vague memories, you were playing with some guy that was like a mage or like witch hunter type guy, living in modern era, and he's like fighting all kinds of supernatural things, and I remember looking at it, and it's funny now because graphics, right? But I remember looking at it and just telling my mom like I'm afraid. Like I'm scared, and she was like,
little
"Well, you shouldn't be, playing this."
Why
And I'm
are
like,
you
"I
doing
wasn't
that?"
playing it. I was watching. I think my father play it, and
And then she was like,
and I don't even think it was the full
name.
game. I think it was like a demo.
What's your dad's name?
I'm named after my dad. so
okay,
Jeff
then she would
as
be
well.
like, Jeffrey!
Yeah, it was a bit rough, and honestly, I remember playing a little bit of Resident Evil, and the reason why Resident Evil didn't scare me so much was because it was slow, and my child brain couldn't process how to play the game.
Yeah.
I did not, and Resident Evil purists, come at me if you will, but I
Oh.
did
Hear
not
that?
have much of an appreciation for Resident Evil up until 5. 5 and 6 specifically, because to me those were realistic and more realistic in movement. If I have these like chemically altered crazy ass mutation like situations coming at me from all angles all the time, I'm not going to like kind of walk or pep step everywhere and then like plant my feet and not move anytime I need to shoot. It just made no sense to me.
It's very rare.
And you're always by yourself, and it was very, very easy to get caught into a situation where you just might have to start the level back over. I have a memory of having Resident Evil, I believe 3 or somewhere about for GameCube. Never played it. It came with 2 discs. I mean, it was the only game I ever seen. That was not only game. Sorry, it was the first game I'd ever seen that came with 2 discs.
Yeah.
And I was like, this game is that long? And my dad had started playing it. Tried to take over from where he left off, and couldn't do it. He had no health left. His guy was holding his side. He had a knife that was like 4 inches long.
Oh, no.
And no ammo really, and you could look all around that room. You could pull drawers all day long. Nothing was really in there except the letter that meant nothing to you, you know, for that part of the game. And then you walk out into the hallway, and it's filled with zombies.
Oh god.
Filled with zombies.
So, like, you can't do it.
Mind you, very slow-moving zombies.
Yeah.
But the hallway was narrow, and there was nowhere for you
Like
to go.
Dawn of the Dead one.
Yeah.
Zombies,
And all you could do was just, like this, like,
yeah,
little...
they're like, you're definitely
This little horizontal, slow, I'm dying movement, you know, and it would be like dead.
Yeah.
So I wasn't about that. I wasn't about that life. Having a partner, that was when they introduced that in Resident Evil 5.
Yeah,
made
that
so
was
much more sense.
So much fun.
Being grabbed and eaten around the net, please roundhouse this thing off me. Like, it's having saving opportunities, having it be co-op so that you could play with a buddy.
Yeah.
You know, like that was just next level for me, and apparently not everyone appreciated it, but whatever.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. My
co-op.
brother visited, my 9-year-old brother, Cole, he visited me, and we played that. We played Resident Evil 5, like, together, and he thought it was the coolest thing. They were, like, killing zombies together.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm the cool person now, introducing video games and corrupting children with my video game times.
Yeah.
Watching things they shouldn't be watching. Let's go.
And now, no one's talked to me about Resident Evil 7. No one's came. No one's
I watched,
come
like,
out
videos of it. It was, like, scary.
Yeah, it looks scary. It looks like they went
scary.
back old school-ish,
Yeah.
but then it's first person? Is that right? Yeah, that's a bit different for Resident Evil.
I did such, like, a young person thing and, like, watch someone play a game, like, on YouTube. Because
No,
it's, like, the
that's
thing that
fun.
people do.
Yeah.
I was, like, watching them play it. And I was like, this is fucking scary.
Yeah.
Like, things move. Like, you go in one room and you come back and there's something that's different. Meaning, like, someone went in there and fucked with that shit in the game. And, like, that's just, like, psychologically scary in and of itself. Like, if you're home and you put your cup there and you walk out of the room and you're home by yourself and your cup's somewhere else, you're like,
No.
what the fuck? I mean, for me, I always do that, but like for just because I forget where I put things, and then I'm convinced I'm insane.
And then
so.
there's Ghost.
Yeah,
Well, that's
it's like,
like, I
where
really
did it
like to
go?
watch that guy, Kat, I think you sent him to me, the black guy who like plays horror video games, and he's just like a typical black guy at the horror movies where he's like, oh hell no!
Yeah.
He's like, what the fuck is that? Like,
Is he the same one
his
that
reaction is
demonstrated
the best.
We
playing a
can't be
horror
curious.
game with the Oculus Rift? Was that him?
he might have, I don't know.
That
I've only
was-
watched like a few things that like Kat sent me.
That was so hilarious. If it is the guy, you gotta look him up. He's playing some horror game on Oculus Rift, and it's so absurd. Because I'm like, he's braver than me.
Yeah.
Like, if I wasn't recording, you know, for a YouTube video, there's no way I would be able to get through something like that.
Yeah, and you definitely need like a following. Well, my horror video game obsession came with Silent Hill. So the Japanese horror game, and it was the PlayStation.
Yeah, I'm pretty
Definitely
sure.
PlayStation.
My
I don't know
friend's
if it
dad
was
played
one
it
or
too
two.
in front of us. It's just like lots of that. I think this was a kid experience. Like, just people's fathers, yours or others,
Oh, yeah.
just did bad things by playing video games that were inappropriate in front of each other.
No.
You didn't have any, you just did it on your own volition?
Yeah, I
Just
didn't
like,
have
that's
a
me.
father.
Video games, movies.
Well, no, I didn't mean it like
Like-
that, but like other people had dads.
Yeah, no, they didn't play video
Awkward.
games.
Same.
Sorry. What's up with that? But I mean, like, I played Silent Hill. So my best friend growing up, Miranda, was obsessed with Silent Hill. Like, the lore and, like, the real place that it's based off of, which has, like, there was mines, and they, like, collapsed and they're still burning. So it's, like, a town of ash, and you can't live there. Like, they had to evacuate. Yep.
We should go there sometime.
We should.
We're living in
It's
PA.
real. Let's
Yes.
go. Oh my
Might as well.
gosh.
We need to go. And she, like, yeah, she was super obsessed with that. And she would, like, watch the videos on YouTube of people doing it. And it was, like, our whole thing. But I played with my best friend in high school, Olivia. And we had this rule when we played where we would take turns. But what would happen is if you got too scared to continue, you would throw the remote at the other person, and they had to pick it up, and they had to play for a while. Like, you couldn't be like, oh, no, back to you. Like, you had to play. So there'd be times where, like, you're about to go into a room, and you know that shit's fucked up, and you're just like, ah! And the person's just like, I hate you so much. But you had to, like, do it. And with Silent
The
Hill...
original co-op.
Yes, the Force co-op.
Pop it extreme. Let's go.
The worst thing about Silent Hill is that it's, like... It's just a bunch of scavenger hunts, and it's super tedious. So you have to, like, you go to, like, the hospital, and you go to the 3rd floor, and you go to room 21B, and you go in there, and you find a strand of hair. and then you have to go down to the hotel, and you go to, like, the first floor, but you have to go to the 7th room, and then you'd find, like, candle wax. And all these things, like, would help to create things to help you get out. Meanwhile, there's, like, the most terrifying fucking things coming after you, like the nurses, and everything's twitchy, because it's Japanese, so they all do, like, the twitch walk at you, and they do it really fast, and it's, like, weird noises, and then there's fucking Pyramid Head, who's got, like, his giant, like, weapon that he just drags behind him so you can hear it just like shh. You're like, fuck. And then the rain, it's a whole thing. So it's like you definitely needed walkthroughs, because otherwise you're just walking around the entire town looking for one piece of thing that could possibly go to another piece of thing that you might have overlooked. So it would be like, literally we'd have like the walkthrough that's like, please go to room blah 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 in this random house and find the key to a lockbox. Did you buy the books? No, we just went on like
I'm still stuck on this candle wax and hair bit.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna make what?
Yeah, it would be like some weird contraption to like get a key or to get something. And it's always like the keys led to a lock that was like across town. It's like, why? What is this town that no one just has the things together? But I remember one of the best parts was we were playing and we were like, I think in the like a hotel or a hospital was one or the other. And there was like a gate. And on one side of the gate was Pyramid Head, and we were on this side of the gate, and he couldn't get to us. So it was like this time where like I just started taunting him because he's on the other side, so he can't do anything. I was like, "What now, bitch? Like, oh, you can't get across a gate? Like, oh, there's just a lock on here. You can't cut it down with your big ass fucking sword. Like, what are you doing?" And after that, like, just pretty much going ham on him and like laughing at him for being on the other side, we were no longer afraid of him. And he would come up and we're like, "Oh, mister, I can't get through a gate," showed up again. And we were like unafraid for the rest of the games. And so I'm pretty sure we beat it, but we did definitely need a walkthrough. You can't play that game without a walkthrough. Silent Hill 2, I believe, was like our go-to.
Yeah, I remember when I was little, like, I don't know, I didn't use the internet to look up video game stuff. I don't know what, like, maybe because I started really young.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing that you could do.
Yeah.
So I would, like, go to Barnes & Noble.
And buy
like,
those expensive-ass books.
No, I wouldn't buy them. I would steal.
Oh, no!
I wouldn't steal the book. I would take a notebook with me.
Okay.
Find, like, the part in the book and just, like, write stuff down for when I went home. And I was like, this is my research. I did more research on this than I did on being a witch. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Put down my cheat codes. Hit X, triangle, X.
Yes. Oh, my God.
Up, down,
codes.
up, side.
Classic.
Whatever. It was ridiculous. But I would do that all the time. I wouldn't look up a walkthrough on the internet. Because I, like, didn't know how to do that. I guess because it was like I was younger.
Cheat code CC.
Yeah, like when I got older, I mean that's how I got my Sims cheats and all that stuff like that.
Oh my God, Motherload.
Like once it started, yeah, like once
the best website.
Once the internet was like for it, it was like all the time. But like I think like in that small threshold where that wasn't a thing, and when like you couldn't be on the computer while someone was on the phone.
Yeah, that whole situation.
Or like my mom would be doing work on the computer. I was like, well, I can't. There's only one. It's so slow.
Yeah, it's huge.
If someone needs to make a call, you have to abandon everything that you were doing.
It has the loudest startup noise.
Seven steps. Yeah. 7 steps to get to the internet.
And there's a guy running. So he's not running. That man is dragging himself across the ground to get to his destination.
But yeah, go to fucking Barnes & Noble and be like, this is it.
It's too late. Boom, boom.
He is so fucking casual for a guy at a murder house.
Like, just like with a little
pet. Here I come down the stairs.
It's like the guy in Blair Witch.
What the? He has a machete holster just in his jeans? Like, just... Yeah, been looking for one of these. Hasn't gotten any use in a while. No! But if you can cut your own fingers off with it, that means it's still useful, Mike.
Do you want to talk a little bit about history of horror, unless we've kind of already touched on it?
We touched on it a little bit. Basically, what the internet has said to me is that Resident Evil was one of like the first like real survival horror video games, and that's what kind of started push towards that being something that was really interesting. And, like, the game came before the movies, as far as I know.
Yes,
it was like
well
before,
yeah.
And that was basically like people like loved them, like even though they were like weird and like really uncomfortable to play because, like, the people were very unrealistic and everything was so confusing.
Resident Evil, oh my god.
Like, nothing was simple.
Also,
you had to just, like, it was similar to Silent Hill in that way.
Yeah,
where, like, you just fucking had to
bunch
wander
of
around
I'm trying to
everywhere.
mention why.
Yeah.
I have memory I do have. PS1, trapped in the mansion.
Yeah.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
I go straight to the front door because that's what Logic Brain says. Open the door and there are these, like, they almost look like raptors. I guess they were meant to be, like,
The
mutated dogs.
Yeah,
They look like
dogs.
raptors to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, and they go, and you're just like, oh, poop. Close
Nah.
the door. And then they wouldn't let you open it again. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff that would not happen in Resident Evil 5 and 6. Because you would be versatile enough and you armed enough to
So they
just
made
like
the challenges a little harder.
to let them have it. Yeah, they
For
made
Logic.
it hard. Yes. They wanted you to really.
Oh,
It
yeah.
really was survival in that way. That they wanted you to use your brain more than your like your skills and abilities
Yeah.
to like your physical abilities.
I mean, what gets
to
me
kill.
about that game, though, is just, like, the puzzles were so weird. Like, in real life, there's not
Yeah.
going to be a weird puzzle that makes you put a gem in a statue and then secret weird steps appear and you have to go
Yeah.
underground to fight this underwater monster. Like, it was the most ridiculous shit. That was
But
like,
it was really because it was like,
why?
this is a video game of the
Well,
time,
yeah.
and that's
It wasn't
all
trying to be
we
real,
could
I
do
guess. I guess
is
that's the point.
puzzles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every
Indiana-
game was
Indiana
puzzles.
Jones inside a mansion.
Lara Croft
With
was just
zombies.
puzzles. It was just puzzles in a cave.
That's why I stopped playing.
I couldn't.
But
I hated Lara
I
Croft.
mean, it got a little. Tomb Raider got a little bit more
I got
interesting.
mad.
At least the way possible ways that she could die, those got way more interesting. Like speaking of like Resident Evil, and kind of spinning off into horror and everything. One of the last Tomb Raider releases actually reminded me of Resident Evil 5 and 6, and that actually, and kind of a little bit Until Dawn kind of reminds me a little bit of it too. And that when you miss that button, that very very crucial button press. Someone's
something
going to
happens.
get choked,
Yeah.
or they're going to get impaled, or they're going to get an Uzi in their face, like point blank, and that's just it.
Yeah.
Start
Reactions.
over.
Yeah.
Checkpoint.
Yeah, I think that was like a really cool thing that like a lot of video games have started to do to make them more realistic with like how actual life works. Where like if you fuck up, there's a consequence.
Yeah.
One
It's not
thing
like
I
you
I
can just
love
be like,
consequence
oops.
video games.
Yeah.
Like a lot of video like that's like you can't fall off the cliff because there's a
Yeah.
barrier, or like you can't. Like, if you're running and you miss the thing, it's just like a glitch. It doesn't go... You just keep going.
Yeah.
Or like, you know what I mean?
Some
like,
of them
there's-
are unexpected though. Like
Yeah.
that Tomb Raider one that I like the very first time I died in, because I didn't play it from beginning to end. I just thought it was interesting. She escapes the temple, and this is early in the game. She escapes the temple, and she's sliding down a waterfall like situation, and it's like you have control to go left or
Oh
right.
yeah.
And just all of a sudden, I'm going and like it was like some like sharp rock, just like straight through like her sternum
gosh.
area, and she just gurgles and kicks the bucket.
Sounds
And I'm like,
horrifying.
wow.
like, ouch.
Oh, there we are.
It wasn't
Sorry,
trying.
Laura.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Didn't mean to.
Oops. Very much sorry.
I don't know how I was supposed to see that coming for the first time out of the darkness.
Well, now
as,
you know.
As you go careening,
That's why
like
people
They set
die
you
all
up.
the time, because that's what life is. Just like shit happens.
Just-
You gotta-
it just
You gotta be
happens.
constantly vigilant
sometimes you just don't see it coming.
against the
Yeah, they
dangers.
say now you know.
Yeah.
Going forward, that shit's real.
One of those moments where I really wish that there was like a button, like we were playing a video game, is when I was walking to an Uber outside of our house, and the curb on the other side of our street is way higher than the curb on our side of our street. So I was like stark sober, straight up walking like with authority to this car, and I like went to get on the one side, and it like there was someone in it. So I went to get in the other side, and I hit the curb with my like foot because it was higher than I anticipated,
Yes.
and I went full face plant forward.
No.
And the guy gets out of his car like, "Oh my god, are you okay?"
That's
He
what-
probably thought I was like super
Retarded.
like it was a little late. I was like a little drunk.
Yeah.
Like he probably thought I was a little drunk. I wasn't. He probably was like, "This girl doesn't need to be going to a bar right now."
Yeah.
She needs to turn around, go back inside, because she
She
can't.
needs help. Where's her helmet?
Pre-game was too
Where's-
much.
Where's the person who watches her?
Yeah. Where's her
She's
guardian?
gotten loose.
Where's the person responsible for this?
Yeah, or it would have been really cool if I just hit triangle at the right time that I saved myself.
It's called having what is it called?
Reactions.
Reactions. What is it?
Yeah.
Instincts.
Hand-eye coordination, reflexes.
Reflex.
I have none
That's
of
the word.
those.
You have no reflex. It's called something. I knew that much.
Don't face it.
I just go around and bump into things. I'm covered in bruises.
Woo!
From just like existing.
Just life.
Yeah, you know.
Same. I got you. I know how it is. Life just had to get us.
It would have been cool to like just hit a button and be like, oh, I saved it. Cool.
Yeah.
There's not even like a moment where you're like, oh, I can fix this. I don't know.
For history, I did briefly want to, and you'll probably have to rope me in because you know how I feel about him, but H.P. Lovecraft. Just because there's several games that have spawned because of his writing. So you have Layers of Fear, or you have Amnesia, or there's like a game, there's like Lost at Sea or something. Well, so what I find very interesting about horror video games and what makes them so scary is that you're put into that role that we're so used to just kind of watching other people be. So like when you're watching a horror movie, it's that person that's making all the terrible decisions. Like that's the guy who runs up the stairs instead of out the front door.
And you can always laugh and be like, don't do that.
Yeah, why does she keep tripping? Whereas, like, obviously in these games, you're the one who's doing that. You're the one who opens the door and there's crazy-ass dogs and you have to close it and now you're forced to go somewhere else. Or you're the one who, like, didn't hit triangle fast enough and now you done tripped and you're dead. So you're put into that place where you have to make the dumb decisions, ones that, like, progress the story, and because you're also not faced with really any choice. And what I think is very interesting specifically about H.P. Lovecraft is that I don't even know if you could really call him protagonist, but the narrators of his stories tend to be just like average people who are maybe like a historian or a wealthy guy who spent time in the Congo or just like a random guy whose car broke down and he has to go and ask for help in some random sketchy house.
Or a has-been artist who is trying to create his masterpiece of life, and who's unfortunately too old and senile to really navigate his own mansion.
Yeah, and that's just
That's
it.
Layers of Fear.
Everyone knows.
I've never played it. It sounds weird. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's
like
like all Lovecraftian games are like that, where you take a normal person, stay alive. So stay alive is you're a journalist. And you go to investigate something, and you're in a mental asylum, and someone has escaped. But there's like this situation in Lovecraft where it's a normal, average person, a regular Joe like us, who is then confronted with this like impossible evil that is just there's no way to defeat it. There isn't. And the antagonist in all of them is yourself, in that like you're going insane. You're afraid of the dark. There's like, most of the time things aren't even coming at you. It's just that you're existing in this super stressful space that you're now terrified. So that's like the whole kind of genre of like Lovecraftian horror, is that it takes forever till you're even like confronted with the big guy and he's like Cthulhu or the Yellow Man or like anything that's like literally otherworldly, gigantic, fucking impossible to, there's just like, you seeing him, you're dead, like you're instantly mad, like you're just gone crazy. But it's like the entire story is actually you leading up to that and how you're slowly losing your mind just from like reading shit you shouldn't be reading or like going places in dark cold basements you shouldn't be in. And these games force those people to do that, and you're equipped with like a camera so you can use the flash to see light, or you have like maybe a stick, but most of the time with Lovecraftian games, it's all about hiding in the appropriate places in time and like navigating around crazy people or situations. Like you don't even fight, and that's what I think is really cool about them.
To elaborate on the Layers of Fear, one of the things that hooked me about it, because I'm not about that being helpless and having to hide all the time. Like, so I quit Stay Alive very early on. After being beaten to death with like a lead pipe or something. But with Layers of Fear, there are just a lot of things to appreciate about the game. For one, even though I'm being placed in stressful situations, the story is still progressing. You're realizing that, okay, this is all a mind game. I'm going insane. The character just can't really cope with reality. Is very much like what Kat said earlier about putting a cup one place and then you come in and it's somewhere else, except for probably put them well beyond their limit of acid. And that's what Layers of Fear has going on. It's just rooms are morphing, things are shifting, they're melting, they're coming back, and like you're rotate. You can be in a room and you can just rotate, and as you get back to where you were looking, something's just totally different. Like the door is now a window, or it's now just a straight up wall, and
that sounds like a game that would trigger like. Everything.
Yeah, and it feels more about the story. You're finding clues and pieces as you're going along, and honestly, even the the sound design of it also is. I have to say I appreciate because you're moving. I guess he has like a cane. You don't know what your character looks like, but you're made to assume maybe he has a cane or he has a bad hip or a hobble. And his footsteps sound like a heartbeat. So as you're as you're walking and moving, you're adding to it. You know,
it stresses you out.
You're adding to the stress. Yeah, your own movement.
Yeah.
So good.
Like
so
amnesia, when like you're freaking out, what's worse for me as someone who has anxiety is when the person's freaking out and then they start breathing heavy and they're like, I'm like, oh my god, am I having a heart attack? No, I'm not even in this game. Like there's literally nothing happened. It's just getting dark and they're like, oh my god, and I'm like, no, oh my god, what do you mean? Calm down. Like, can you keep it together for us? Like, I need you to just get your shit together, sir.
You've been programmed to act this way.
Yeah, how dare you?
Get your shit
together. That's a part. Like, that's, like, again, you're the antagonist as well. Like, your fear, your mind. Like, you can't even trust yourself. You're the unreliable narrator, and you have to play through it. And that adds to it, and it's crazy, and it has a new element that, like, you're not going to get from a game like Halo. Like, you go that for a different kind of thrill. Like, I think that's what's really cool about horror video games. For people who like horror, it's like the next level because you're it and you're stuck and there's no way out.
So you believe there's a crazy psychopath out in the woods. You have a huge curvy ass and we're just going to go out there and just raise tensions. And that's how they were killed. It knocked in the temple with books.
Read me! God, so needy. It's also a house in the middle of the mountains that no one goes to, so I don't think we can relate.
You know, like, why?
With all the... It's so big.
This isn't shit you need for your
Yes.
kids.
Here we are. So, you played Until Dawn. I made you play it. And I'll just give a nice little brief intro about what Until Dawn is. It is an interactive survival horror adventure game by Supermassive Games, apparently. And it's for PlayStation 4, and the reason it's specifically for PlayStation 4 is that it does use the PlayStation, like, Move situation. So, like, you haven't super dealt with that yet. You did have, like, the pad where you have to swipe, but it's also, like, later in the game, you can't move, and the game will know when you're moving, and you'll see, like, the little symbol of, like, it looks like a elongated triangle on the PlayStation, and you'll see it, like, match, and if you move out of it, you see it, like, moves, and then it's like, and then something kills you. So that's why it incorporates that in there, but the story takes place in, actually, Western Canada, as this document says. And it centers around a group of 8 terrible teenagers.
So terrible. Well, some of them are decent.
Yeah. Take them really
like literally 2.
Yeah. It's like 2 that we can live with. And it's like, they are returned to this, to the Blackwood Mountain, which is like a skiing resort that no one is at because it's like the middle of the winter, but it's also like abandoned for some reason. But they're coming back during the anniversary, as always, it's always an anniversary of the disappearance of these twin sisters who used to be their friends, and it's the brother who invites them there, and then shit gets crazy, and there's like a psycho coming after them. And you have to change off and be that person and make decisions as that person. So what, like, I remember, and kind of going back to the idea of, like, you have to be the stupid person in the film, is one of the very specific scenes where I was like, this is amazing, was when you're walking and you got sexiled You're Jess and Mike. So you're Jess and Mike, the hottest couple in town. Yep. Jess is the greatest ass.
Greatest ass, yes.
And Mike is a dick, and it's great. And I was definitely playing up, like, I definitely was like, I'm going to play these characters as these characters. Because they give you traits, they give you attributes. Mm-hmm. They pretty much are like, this is the role you need to fill. But it's like, you kind of learn as you're going that people will react differently when they're in stressful situations, so you have to think about that. But you're still like, who am I? So you get to kind of like, you get to be role-playing a little. Mm. But I played Mike as a dick. But I remember there's a specific time when you're sex-iled and you have to go to, like, you're in an awesome mansion that has a bazillion rooms, but you have to leave through the woods in the middle of the cold, like, and it's the longest journey ever. It's like to the next mountain over, and you're like walking, and there's like a part where you're just walking down the path, and she's like doing snarky remarks, and they're flirting with each other, and then there's like fire just like randomly in the corner. It's like and you hear like this crazy scream sound, and it was like I stopped, and I personally, Gabe was like, I'm gonna turn around and go back to the house because that shit's crazy, and I'm not gonna be out here with this lady like that. But then I was like walking, I was like, I can't go back. I'm not allowed. I have to keep going forward. I have to keep propelling the story. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the stupid person that sees like a blatant alarm, like fire. And I'm just like, here we go. Gotta go have sex in a cabin. I'm a stupid teenager. And so that's kind of like in summation what Until Dawn is that you play as stupid teenagers. You try not to die. It's all reactionary, so like really high intense situations are happening, and it prompts you to hit a button, whether that's triangle or X or whatever, and if you don't hit it quick enough, shit happens, and people like Jess end up murdered by accident because Gabe has bad reflexes.
Of course Gabe killed Jess. You will live with that for the rest of your life, you awful person.
Sorry. I just hit the wrong button. I didn't want to kill her.
It was so real though, like, okay, so like, that was so stressful in the moment when you had them like hung up like that and you had to pick who the fuck was gonna die. It was so upsetting.
Oh yeah, that's Ash.
Whatever. Who's Jess?
Jess is the blonde one that falls down the thing.
The one who Gabe apparently got out of her clothes.
Yeah.
And then allowed her to be brutally
you
murdered.
did kill Jess. I'm still mad. Yeah. I mixed them up, but still, it's very stressful.
It was very stressful to pick Ashley and what's his name? Josh.
You picked Ashley?
All I know is that like everyone was really upset is when Jess died.
No, I picked Ashley, but it didn't let me. It was a trick. And
it was so much better because like Matt Trowers was there, and he just like screamed it like it was a real person.
Yeah,
that you had just killed.
And it made me feel so bad.
Like it was like that was the moment where the world ended.
It was literally because I slipped on a rock. Like, when you're running through, like, over that river, I slipped, and it took me a second. I face planted in the curve. I didn't hit triangle fast enough, and she was dead. It didn't even matter that I ran faster later.
Well, these are obviously semi-spoiler alerts, but hey, I think that you wouldn't have been able to save her anyway, right? Because I did not slip. I just got to see her last moments of breath before she fell into darkness. So
yeah, but she fell into darkness.
Yeah. And she wasn't naked, so I don't actually. Maybe he did kill her. Maybe she just like died of hypothermia.
No, she was straight up dead. She didn't have a jaw when I got to her.
Oh.
Yeah, she was very dead when I found her. So there's different levels of death as well.
Wow, your slipping on a rock gave him enough time, or it enough time to just
take her jaw
rip her.
Yeah, Gabe killed Jess.
Mirrors. But that's going into movies or in video games.
Yeah,
we do need to talk about mirrors one time.
Wow.
But yeah.
But it wasn't intentional. Mm-hmm. I wanted her to live, and I went back and I played it again.
Yeah. Those Resident Evil 5 and 6 actually gave me a term to coin those moments as quick timed events, and QTEs are short.
Okay.
So I was.
Cuties.
Cuties.
They're not. They're fucking rude.
If it makes it easier to, refer to those going forward, because hey, there's a lot of that. They're very critical.
Yeah.
As you were saying, I'm gonna have to be still. And
yes.
I think even those count.
Yeah, that definitely counts.
But I appreciate that kind of stuff, and one of the things that has me the most excited, despite my having already killed half the crew, is it's satiating that void that's been left behind by Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. Not particularly in the horror realm, more the suspense, thriller, mystery. But still, that option, that choice to be the person and to make the not dumb decisions or to make the dumb decisions and to, see what happens. It's a little more rigid than, just a teensy bit, a little more rigid than Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls. But actually, I can't really say Beyond Two Souls and Until Dawn kind of feel similar in like the decision making things that you do. But Beyond Two Souls is amazing. There is a little bit more freedom at play there. But Heavy Rain has even more freedom because you're playing among 4 characters who are all interconnected, but at the same time doing their own thing. It's kind of like Crash, but in video game form. But yeah. So.
Yeah, I think the game does a really good job of making you hate the characters right from the beginning because they're all like snotty teenagers, and they all like even some of their redeemable qualities are like not enough to sustain you. Like they specifically made Emily the worst character that's ever existed.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, and it's like so in your face that she's wrong. Like I straight up chose to kill her. Like, before that, it was always an accident. Like, I accidentally killed Jess. I didn't want to. But I, like, looked Matt Towers in the face, who was watching me, and I was like, that bitch is going down. And when I had the opportunity, I just jumped off, and she was gone. And I was like, fuck you. And what I really love about this game is that you, even as, like, a viewer, change. Because you start to feel differently, even about the characters. And you'll, like, if we have time after this, you can play some more. But it's crazy. The story, because that's what it is. It's a story-driven game. And those are something that, like, I love a lot. That's why I love Telltale games. Like, I love The Walking Dead, even the Borderlands. Tales from the Borderlands is fucking awesome.
Walking Dead yet. Oh my gosh.
No?
I still need to play part 2 of Batman.
And then, Wolf Among Us is amazing. So any story-driven where you're making decisions and it impacts the rest of the game, those are the kind of games that you want to come back and then you want to play some more. But although Jeff is only halfway through, barely, and has not gotten to the thick of it, he is feeling some type of way about what has happened in his game. And I'd like to give him the floor to finally talk about it. And I won't shut you down. You know what? Feel the way you want to feel. It's okay, because I'm excited to see how much you feel right now. I'm excited to see when it all comes together and you're like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, honestly, after our off-the-record conversation, I've started to process more. So I'm not as inflamed. But one of the things that kind of stood out to me and really just simmered for a while was the part where I last left off, which was making a decision to try to save one of the other characters. And I had an option. It was either jump or tries to save the character. And they're on a very, very haphazardly balanced tower that's ready to fall at any moment. And I tried to save them, even though they were saying very rude things. My character was trying to tell this person, I'm trying to think. And
I'm being calm and collected.
She's saying, don't think, just save me, you idiot.
And in the worst voice ever. Oh my God, why don't you save me? Not that.
Yeah, that voice.
Save me.
Whatever word describes that voice, that right there.
Why don't you want to save me? I'm beautiful.
Okay. And so I try to save her, and it shakes. It kind of teeters a bit, and it's like, oh shit, it could have fallen just now. Do you want to jump off or do you want to try to save her? And of course, as I'm saying this, most people who are listening are probably like, well, why the hell don't you just jump at this point? You just had a choice.
Yeah,
the thing's rocked. And so are you really going to try it again? You should jump. But in the moment, I was playing, as Gabe said earlier, to the character that he is, which is very compassionate. Very he comes off very tenderhearted. He's supposed to be like, football star, tough guy, jock type, but he's not. He just has the varsity jacket, and that's about it. He's just, as tough as a flower petal. And and so I try to, play to that and have him save this very terrible person. So I try it a second time. And it starts teetering again, and it's like, oh, it's going down this time. And so he jumps of his own accord. He's like, I'm not going down. He jumps off, and he knocks himself out. Jumping off, it looked very terrible. I was like, what? Why? Why did he just decide to take a cat nap? I didn't see the impact on his head or whatever. He just jumped off and went to sleep.
I'm done.
And the tower falls, and the person you were trying to save just falls into an abyss. Maybe she's dead, maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out. And he wakes up, and it's like, okay, yeah, good, Matt. You're alive. Get up and dust yourself off. And he is kind of coming to, and before he really gets up, he's grabbed from the back of the neck, like his jacket, and dragged, I'd say maybe 20, 30 feet. He's reaching, he's tussling, he's trying. No QTEs show up for you to try to save him. And you are forced to watch it as he continues to try to struggle to get away from this unknown figure. And off in the distance, you see meat hooks hanging from a cavernous ceiling. And he has been lifted into the air, and I had to look this area of the body up, his mandibular symphysis area is the part like between your chin and your throat. It's kind of how you hook a fish. Think about that. Is jammed and impaled on top of one of these meat hooks. And you have now at this point, a top-down view of Matt as you see the hook hanging out of, sort of protruding from his open mouth. You then see his mouth pool with blood as he then chokes on it, and his eyes roll into the back of his head, and then his arms fall, and you are then left with that wide shot image of him dangling. The thing that left me the most heated about this is there being a person of color. There has always been a stereotype of black people or people of color being killed off first in horror movies, or definitely if they're not killed off first, they're definitely not making it to the end of the film. I sort of had that feeling of like, why wasn't I as a player allowed to do something? Where was my little triangle or my X prompt in that moment to give him something to get away? I felt like up to that point I had a moment to sort of shift the tide a little bit. Maybe it was just all false. It was all just a placebo. But I at least had that feeling of being able to interact and like hit a button and stop that person from tripping or stop them from slipping or what have you. And in this moment, there was just nothing. And it's like, no, he tried to save someone. He failed. He jumps off. He's knocked out cold. He gets up. He wakes up. He doesn't get to stand. And then he's dragged and impaled on a meat hook. Plain and simple. That's just it. Done. Why? Because you tried to save someone. That was just, it felt very bag-handed in the moment. And given the time and everything, that was actually my stopping point. So that was the image that I went home with in my head, as he is the only character of dark skin in the game. So yeah, I was pretty heated, and Gabe had her own way of taking the wind out of my sails about the situation, and making me look forward to just seeing it through to the end. And so
yeah, and you also had texted me right afterwards that you realized that the women just kind of fell into an abyss. Mm-hmm. And the men died gruesomely for you.
Yeah.
And like I said before, my Jess didn't have a jaw. And she was the first person to die under my watch. Mm-hmm. So one, it was a woman, and it was hella gruesome, where she was in her underwear, she's missing a jaw, because I didn't get my ETQ, or QTE,
mm-hmm,
cutie.
Yeah.
And that's just what I would say. I was like, you're on the right track of thinking about that, of thinking about the way that these people are dying. Mm-hmm. Because nothing is as it seems. So at this point in time, just know that everything is a lie in your life. Although I do want to mention that Matt lived. When I left that bitch, he lived. He was not impaled. I was okay. So and he made it to the end. I'm pretty sure.
And Jess kept her jaw. So on my game,
yes, exactly.
And I did not leave her naked and totally freezing to death with a missing jaw.
I didn't do it on purpose.
I'm just saying. I
was just very sweet.
You did get her up out of her clothes, which I did not.
I did, because I was smooth. I'm a smooth operator.
So she might have had a couple seconds of pleasure before dying very, very terribly and alone. Whereas I found her alive.
Mm-hmm. And then she fell.
Before she fell into an abyss. Which there's something interesting going on, and it's kind of like what Gabe said with the cake is a lie. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think this game is very much like it's reactionary and driven by your choices, but it's also like not, because you're as that character. Like, obviously, if you're being that person, you wouldn't know everything. Whereas, like, when you're watching a horror movie, we get to see other points of view sometimes. Mm-hmm. Whereas this, you're solely just kind of figuring it out with them. So, you're, like, they're being lied to and you're being lied to. Like, you're just taking it in as, like, you're given it. And again, it's, like, that kind of unreliable narrator. Where it's like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know who the bad guy is. And like you said, you're already suspicious about who it is that's killing people. Like, how are they doing this? What's happening?
Mm-hmm. Why do they have, like, Yeti hands one moment and then they look like a normal person the next? And they have, like, crazy strength. I'm going to reach through solid glass and grab you by your whole head and pull your entire body through the window frame that's, like...
You don't do that?
The perfect size is like it's your width, like, but I'm gonna pull you through it with one hand by solely your head.
Can't do that.
And yet I'm gonna now with one character run after this thing, and this thing is now not looking like a thing; it's looking like a man. Like, what? So definitely something that has me intrigued, and I'm looking for, as my father would call it, a Bruce Willis twist.
Oh.
It's
like an M. Night Shyamalan twist? Or?
No, it is Bruce Willis twist, kind of like, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Sixth Sense, but like he's a ghost all along kind of thing. Apparently that was like a theme with Bruce Willis. He like his movies just always have a crazy twist at the end where it's just like, what?
Interesting.
Yeah, so
I just know him as like the grumpy cop.
Just the grumpy cop? Just the die-hard guy?
Well, like, no, he's just always a grumpy cop. It's not just die-hard. It's all the time. But another thing I like about Until Dawn was is the interludes where it's either you as a player or someone in the game that you don't know. Like, you don't know who it is. And at first you're like, it's me, the player, that's being, who's in a counseling session. So you have a therapist who's like asking you questions, and he's super creepy. But it's depending on those choices that you make, it impacts the game even there, like minutely, where it's like, if you say you're afraid of spiders, all of a sudden there's spiders. And even like the room itself, so next time you visit him, there's different elements in the room that are spooky according to what you said you don't like. So if you say you don't like gore, things are gory now. Whereas like I noticed, based on the choices you made in the interview, that some of the scenes were slightly different.
I do find it intriguing, the little psychology tests that I try to fake out. I'm always trying to fake the therapist out. If is like, are you afraid of snakes or are you afraid of spiders? And I'm like, I'm afraid of spiders, but I'm going to choose snakes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going left at every turning corner just to try to see what happens. Or is it going to realize I'm faking it out and throw a spider my way anyway? Or is it going to do something totally crazy and unexpected? There goes my face!
It's already ugly, it's okay.
Yeah, your lips don't match, so.
You can probably knock them straight, honestly.
Yeah, put your lips right back on your face.
You're being a bad serial killer. All you did was just knock me out. What if I wake up? Yeah.
You put him to sleep? You put Josh to sleep? Is that what?
Josh.
just sleeping. They're
Josh
not dead.
was cut in half by a buzzsaw. That was,
He's sleeping.
yeah, of
So
sorts.
it'll be Gabe killed Jess. Or it's Chris isn't funny, because we all agree that even though it says in the description that Chris is the funny guy, he's not funny.
Worst.
So that would be if you didn't like it.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna come in like I
Mandibular
did.
symphysis. I don't know if that's actually right, but it's something.
I wouldn't want that.
There's something up in there.
Listen, if anything on my body has a name, I don't want it impaled.
Yeah, basically.
Once you name it, you just
Yeah, like, I don't want it to die.
That's why they say don't name an animal.
Yeah. I'm gonna name an animal mandibulus,
No, Betsy.
whatever, syphilis, whatever it's called.
Not simple.
All right, so is it Gabe killed Jess?
You did. You did do that.
Okay,
You're
listen.
gonna live with that for the rest of your life. You killed her.
To relive it.
She didn't have to die.
She did. I went back. Or Chris isn't funny, because even though that's like the first thing they say about that kid, he really wasn't funny.
It was so terrible.
He was not funny at all.
I was like, at that point, I was convinced you guys were making me play some horrible, like, teen movie.
That's what it's supposed to be.
That was the horror.
That's what it's
But it's
about.
actually getting decent now. But
I know.
at that moment, that was the, like, turn it off moment.
Yeah,
like,
But that
It's
was the
like, "Ooh, do
horror.
you like
Like something else on Netflix.
So shitty that you're just like, oh god.
No, you're supposed to
This
help
is
hate these
torture.
children.
I'm so scared. Is this my life forever now?
Yes.
Chris just talks and I'm just like,
Yeah. Do you like Ashley? Let me shoot at this bird. Whatever.
That faux hawk, though.
It's terrible. All terrible. But
why did he cheat on Mindy?
No.
He looks just like that guy.
He does look just like that. But overall, your feelings about horror video games. Is it Gabe killed Jess, or Chris isn't funny?
Oh, definitely Gabe killed Jess. Yeah.
I don't know why I made this
I feel like I feel like it's not always easy to do. I'm pretty picky. There are definitely a few that I've picked up and started, like Stay Alive, and I can appreciate what it is, but I can't. It's just not for me, and it will take more effort than I'm willing to invest. But then every now and then there's that layers of fear that's like, this will be very anxiety driven for you, but you know, hey,
So
you don't actually have to worry about dying, and when you do die, it's because you were meant to die because you're going insane and not actually dying. So
It's a reward.
go along for the ride.
Okay,
in the
yeah,
story.
Just-
reward. Just
Death
love
is
it.
a reward.
Yes. Come from me, sweet, sweet death. Life is but a brief wind.
Yes, that.
You know, something like that.
Yes.
Something to that effect.
Some with a candle. You blow it out. I don't know.
Yes.
What about you, Kat?
No, you did kill Jess. But
Okay,
also,
but-
I really like video games.
Okay.
I just wanted everyone to know
Let the world
how
know.
guilty you are. She's in her basement. What? I like video games.
What is happening?
I said she's in her basement. I said you murdered her and put her in her basement because you're the killer the whole time. The game.
Yep.
That's the
That's
twist.
the trick. You
I
didn't
ruined
know.
it
It
for
was
Jeff.
Gabe.
No, well.
I leave you here with her.
She said it was me who was going to be murdered.
That's the trick.
And
I'm a
she
part of
tricked
it.
you. So you got your guard down. Because you're like, I'm not going to
I do
murder.
have some theories about it, specifically because of where I was allowed to have a stopping point.
I like those. Do you like them?
Yeah, it's... Gabe killed Jess, but she didn't mean it. And she went back to the very beginning and played through all that terrible exposition and dealt with those rotten kids so that she could save Jess. She worked her butt off.
Just had a nice ass though.
She
so
got
I
her.
think it
She
was worth it.
did. She had
Yeah,
the
Shirley
best
did.
ass.
Of all the characters.
Of all
it's
of
weird.
them. It was really sad. That's why you're allowed to get her naked.
That's well worth the exposition.
Yeah.
All over
So
again.
you can go get sex communicated. What did they
Yeah.
say?
Oh, sex communication.
It wasn't sex communicated. It was
I
some
was hoping
sex
it was sex
aisles.
aisles.
It was sex aisles.
Okay. I was like, no one says sex communicated. Like,
It was
I like
Like-
sex communication. complicated.
Like we're gonna like remove you from the church and send you to hell as we have sex.
You're not allowed.
That's how I roll. I don't know about you guys. But yeah, I think it's like you said, it's an adrenaline junkie thing, which is what like my obsession with horror comes from, is that adrenaline. Is like, that's why I go to haunted houses and I overreact and I scream even if I'm not really scared, because then you get more attention and then I have way more fun. Because a lot of my screams are immediately followed by hysterical giggling. And that's how I feel about horror movies, is like, if it can make me scream or jump, it makes me laugh. Because it's like, wow, you did that thing.
Because it's not real, then you feel dumb a little bit.
Yeah, but you're like, never did it. It's fine. That's exactly what it's like.
I typically bypass the screaming and jumping and straight into the laughing. And so people sometimes wonder if I'm all psychologically there. I just can't help it. Like, sometimes certain things are like so well done and like people react to it in a certain way that I'm just like, I just can't help but laugh. It's just like, it's so funny to me.
It's like someone being murdered and you're just like, oh,
yeah,
how bemusing.
Yeah, that's basically it.
That's
Jeff. That was definitely just to grab like a quick memory example was what's the name of Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods. I think that's the one where like he walks in and the chick is like sawing. She picked up a piece of like broken mirror. She's sawing her skin off, and the guy with the glasses comes in, and he's just like, "Oh my God, what are you doing?" And he's like backing up, and he slips either on like some blood from like her cutting herself, or like a piece of her skin was like, and he slipped, and the way he just falls back and his hip hits the toilet. I just couldn't. I was like,
losing it.
It was so goofy because it looked like something that was just happening in real life. It's not intended. It doesn't really do anything for like the moment. He just slipped and hit his hip on the toilet. Like,
I'm just thinking of all the times you laughed at something that was inappropriate to laugh at. Yeah, that's really good. That'd be great.
Man, yeah, maybe one day if we see something like that, you guys will see.
No, I definitely feel like when we were in Ouija, the new one, I feel like there was a time when both like me and Kai were like, what? And he was just like,
no, like the bungee where the guy is like he's hanging and like from a rope. He's dead. He's totally done. You know he's dead, but for some reason the body just bungees and grabs like the one girl and pulls her to us. Like,
that whole thing was so funny.
What's going on
I have to like invite you back so we can just talk about how absurd that was. Because like as soon as like, first off, if I'm the boyfriend, as soon as that sister started doing some freaky shit, I'd be like, sorry. Listen, Becky, you got great tits, but that kid, don't fuck around. Because it was like, the TV was going, and he turned, and she was like, hello, I am a normal child.
You're not.
I don't know. She's like, I want you to be murdered. And he's like, I'm a funny kid. Yes, horror video games. It's a thrill. It's fun. You have to play it. You gotta be that person. You gotta be in it. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
All right. So, thank you, Jeff, for being here.
Yeah, of course.
It's been a lovely time talking about horror movies and video games and who you murdered in Until Dawn.
And who I'm waiting to see murdered.
Okay.
Yeah.
One feels a little murderous.
It is.
I just want to laugh.
You know, I've already lost half of them. Let's try to whack off the other half.
See, everyone
might
thinks
as well.
So.
Yeah.
Jeff is always whacking off, you know? You ever get
Nice.
you notice that?
We're into that one. You're into it.
He's laughing.
He's always whacking off and laughing at it.
Oh my God.
Jeffrey. You hear that, everyone? He's laughing, he's whacking, he's laughing. Okay.
That was amazing.
So.
I'm not gonna
Look at you,
let
Jeff.
it go now.
That's how you murder people?
You did that.
No. Listen, you set it up.
I'm wearing too much makeup. I'm blind.
No. But yeah, so that was horror video games with our lovely guest, Jeffrey. So, don't get married, they'll eat your kids.
And Gabe killed Jess. Bye.
No!
You have to fight.